I am actually originally from Mabopane, which is a township in Pretoria, and that's where I did most of my formative schooling, and always have had an interest in art, particularly in collaging. So I would say that has been my earliest form of working through ideas. The one behind us is the first installation of a video series of 3 works called Mapelo Serati. And Mapelo Serati is a Tswana proverb that is usually said when a woman is in love. And literally it translates to a woman has literally consumed their lover. So I think it's always been an exciting proverb for me because it speaks about something sweet as in like being in love, but in such a violent and carnivorous way of like literally consuming your lover. And I suppose that's also what's always been exciting about proverbs to me is that, I've always found that proverbs they are not accountable to reality, because you can just like literally say anything that when you translate it literally, it doesn't make sense, but figuratively it can be, quite poetic. So my work thinks a lot about proverbs as a way of world making, like creating these alternative worlds where Black women are the subjects of a very tender, romantic, beautiful, soft love. Doilies, lace, and such kinds of patterned domestic materialities is something that I've always used in my work. But I think only now in this residency did things come together. I think I've always related to the doily more as a nostalgic object through seeing it, growing up with it in my grandmother's house as a domestic object. But I started thinking about it as a colonial, so we do have them in South Africa. But I started thinking of the doily as a colonial import into South Africa. And I think for me that started to propose something that was quite exciting, because I think there was this very fuzzy dual line that started to happen when I started thinking of the doily as a colonial import and the violences of that, but also the doily on another spectrum as something that is very delicately, beautifully woven. So I think these contrasts for me were exciting because I felt like, oh my God, I finally found an object that translates what I'm trying to say about this romance. Romance as, yes, something that is beautiful, sensual, delicate, soft and tender in the ways that I want to center, particularly for Black women, but also romance as something that can be quite a violent and painful thing. And in the side of violence and painful, I've always been interested in how that plays out in the domestic space. I'm particularly interested in, this thing that in the video, Semiotics of the Kitchen, like where there's this thing that happens where Martha Rosler is kind of pointing towards how the domestic space is a space of self-erasure. So I've always been interested in that. But also the domestic space is not just a space of self-erasure, like when my mother is cooking for us, feeding us, my dad as well, she's not only doing that from an obligation, she's also doing that because she loves us, and that is how she knows how to express love. So I feel like that's something that the doily captured, these dualities, these 2 spectrums of romance and love.